Galadriel.
The Rings of Power Season 2 begins with the backstory of Sauron. He is standing before a massive army of orcs delivering a speech. The scene depicts the end of the Second Age, where the people of Middle-earth have defeated Morgoth and sent him to a timeless world from which he can never return. Sauron tells the orcs that even though one shadow has been defeated, another must rise in its place. He tries to persuade the orcs to help him, so they can reclaim the power of Middle-earth.
Men will never look upon you with anything but horror and disgust. But today, a new age begins. Your new master, Sauron. No longer will we be hunted as the demons who broke Middle-earth. Morgoth is gone, leaving us alone and disgraced. And with a new age, I bring a new vision. Many orcs will die. You have nowhere else to turn. The Valar will never forgive you. Elves will never accept you. I am your only future! Your only path!
Hayuk Zambat.
Adar and the orcs were caught off guard by the sudden wave of magic, and everything went silent. When they finally regained consciousness, they looked around in confusion. To their surprise, they discovered that Sauron had completely vanished. The orcs, believing that Sauron was dead, cheered for Adar and crowned him as their new leader. They celebrated their victory and pledged their loyalty to him. However, unbeknownst to them, Sauron was not dead at all. Instead, he had transformed into a dark, viscous liquid, a form that allowed him to escape unnoticed, feeding on any creatures that happened to wander too close. With each meal, he slowly regained his strength. Eventually, Sauron transformed into a mass of black worms. These worms crawled out of the cave, slithering into the world outside. One day, while exploring, they encountered an older woman passing by with a cart. The worms attacked her, and this final kill allowed Sauron to fully absorb her life force and complete his transformation. With this surge of energy, Sauron reformed into his new shape, taking on the appearance of Halbrand, a handsome figure with a dark presence. He had risen again, ready to plot his revenge and reclaim the power he once held. Now in human form, Halbrand starts his journey alone. On the way, he meets a group of humans who are fleeing from orc attacks in the Southlands. One of them, Diarmid, advises Halbrand not to seek more pain when he is already suffering. Halbrand listens but is distracted when he notices a royal symbol on Diarmid.
They say there's places across the sea a man can escape himself. Or walk on and keep chasing death.
During their journey, Halbrand admits to Diarmid that he has done bad things in the past. Diarmid tells him that redemption comes from choosing to do good again and again until it becomes a part of him. But when a sea serpent attacks their boat and Diarmid is crushed by a beam, Halbrand decides not to help him. Instead, he ignores Diarmid's advice and steals the royal sigil from him before being thrown into the sea. Halbrand and a few survivors hold onto a raft made from wreckage, where they soon spot Galadriel swimming towards them.
The tides of fate are flowing. Yours may be heading in. Or out.
Back in the present day, Galadriel is seen chasing Elrond on horseback. Galadriel tries to grab a leather pouch from Elrond's waist. She wants the 3 rings of power that she believes will save the elves. Elrond manages to escape, and Galadriel is stopped by guards who bring her before High King Gil-galad. Galadriel tries to explain that Elrond is carrying the rings that are crucial for the survival of the elves. However, Gil-galad is more interested in the fact that Halbrand, whom Galadriel brought with her, is not who he claimed to be.
Who is he?
He is not what I thought. Which is the reason I did what I did.
Now who is this man?
He is no man. Masquerading as one. He is Sauron.
Of all our kind.
He deceived me.
The rings.
He never touched them.
He worked with Celebrimbor for weeks.
If we leave now, the peoples of Middle-earth will be left to suffer under the tyranny of a new Dark Lord.
They must be destroyed.
That decision is far above your privilege. It is a command from your kin.
Elrond, no!
Meanwhile, Halbrand has reached the Southlands, now known as Mordor, where Adar and his orcs have taken control. They force their human hostages to swear loyalty to Adar. Halbrand is brought before Adar, but Adar does not recognize him. Halbrand tries to negotiate the release of the hostages, telling Adar to let his people go before they die. Halbrand also hints that Galadriel is working with an ancient sorcerer to forge a new weapon, implying that this sorcerer is Sauron. However, Adar does not believe him, and has Halbrand locked up. While imprisoned, Halbrand uses his power to control a feral beast that had been locked up with him.
Not even kings can go without food. Pain must be something you enjoy.
If the Lord Father releases me, I'm going to kill you.
Back with the elves, Gil-galad sends a messenger to Celebrimbor with news that Halbrand is Sauron. Master Círdan, an elvish shipbuilder, finds Elrond after his escape and shows him the rings. Círdan explains that Celebrimbor's goal was always to create objects that would have power over their holders. Elrond argues that Sauron had a hand in their making, even if he did not touch them directly, and asks Círdan to destroy them. Círdan warns him that destroying the rings would mean the end of the Elves' Age in Middle-earth, but Elrond is willing to take that risk.
I remember he used to speak of one day crafting objects of such power they could change the heart of any who beheld them.
The enemy is cunning. The rings may well be a ploy on his part.
What would you ask of me?
The rings must be destroyed.
You do your father proud. If one were to cast these rings into its depths, they would...
Before Círdan can destroy the rings, Gil-galad and Galadriel arrive. Galadriel tries to convince Elrond that the rings are their best chance, but Elrond remains suspicious that they may be corrupted by Sauron. During their conversation, Círdan slips away and tries to dispose of the rings, but hesitates, becoming drawn to their power. In Mordor, Halbrand swears loyalty to Adar in exchange for freedom. He will let him go so that Halbrand can locate if the Dark Lord is really there and to spy on the elves.
Sauron has returned in a new form, and I am not yet certain what shape he has taken. I'll go to them and seek him out, so you can marshal your legions to destroy him.
You vow allegiance to Adar?
Yes.
Now swear it.
I vow.
With your head at my feet.
I vow to serve the Lord of Mordor.
Meanwhile, Gil-galad sings a beautiful song at the fading tree, because they will have to leave forever and head to Valinor. As he finished singing, Círdan appears with the 3 rings to let them know that they will be used for good. Once they put the rings, the once fading tree blooms again with shiny yellow leaves, bringing light back to the elves. Halbrand finally reaches Eregion, but is stopped by soldiers at the gate. Celebrimbor is informed of his arrival, but does not care, and continues to work in the forge. A dwarf couple, Durin and Disa, are adjusting to their new life after King Durin has taken away his son's title. The two are shopping in the market, showing their strong relationship as Disa reminds Durin that she married him because she loves him, not because of the title he once held. Disa encourages Durin to speak with his father about their situation. However, their conversation is interrupted when Disa senses a shift in the stone around them.
No.
In the peaceful land of Lindon, Galadriel stands beside her brother Grave. The air is calm as she kneels down, gently planting seeds into the earth, hoping they will grow into something beautiful to honor his memory. The soft sound of footsteps behind her breaks the silence. It is Celebrimbor, the skilled elven smith. Celebrimbor softly tells Galadriel that there is a visitor, hinting that it is someone she will want to know about. Galadriel's heart skips a beat. She immediately understands what he means. In a haunting tone, he begins reciting a poem, the ancient verses about the rings made for the different races of Middle-earth. She blinks, realizing that it was all a nightmare, a terrible vision brought on by her fears. They are in the middle of a strategy meeting, discussing Sauron movements. The commanders were deep in conversation. Galadriel took a deep breath, trying to shake off the lingering dread from her dream. She knew this fight was far from over, and that Sauron's shadow still loomed large over Middle-earth. Galadriel agrees they should invade Mordor, but after the other commanders leave, she tells Gil-galad that she believes Sauron will not stay there. She thinks his true aim is to conquer all of Middle-earth by controlling its people. For this plan, Sauron needs rings, and to make rings, he needs Celebrimbor. Gil-galad reassures her that Celebrimbor is safe in Eregion, but Galadriel is not convinced.
You believe the rings have kindled your ability to see that which has not yet come to pass.
I have seen mountains crumbling, waters running dry.
Once the deceiver obtains a being's trust, he gains the ability to sculpt their very thoughts.
Yes. He knows my mind.
You once considered him a friend.
Halbrand was not.
Sauron!
A messenger from Celebrimbor approaches Sauron, though she addresses him by the name Halbrand. Her expression is stern as she delivers her master message. The message is clear that Celebrimbor will not allow Halbrand to come near. Halbrand, however, does not seem surprised by this news.
Was there something more?
I believe he's injured, my lord.
He'll leave soon enough. Messengers from Lindon should arrive with news.
What Celebrimbor does not know, however, is that the news he is waiting for will never come. Tragically, those messengers have been killed on their journey. Back in Khazad-dûm, the dwarves are struggling after an earthquake and the collapse of their sun shafts, which means their resources are running low. Disa fellow stone singers are worried that this is a sign of trouble for the Dwarven kingdoms, but Disa tries to comfort them, saying everything will be fine. She goes to King Durin to ask for permission to find a new way to dig for a sun shaft. They sing a beautiful song, but their success is short-lived, as the new shafts collapse almost immediately.
With your approval, sire, we will find the light.
You have it. The stone singers have fostered our sacred connection to this rock. Not once have they ever ceased to provide for us.
He dismisses the meeting, but asks Disa to stay behind to talk about his son without saying it directly. He tries to apologize, but Disa suggests he should apologize to his son instead, saying that both of them are too stubborn to apologize to each other. Durin, who used to be a prince, is now working in the mines with other dwarves. They tease him for not having calluses like the other miners, which leads to a fight. Later, during a simple dinner with Disa, she tells him he needs to apologize to his father. Durin, like his dad, does not see the bigger picture. Disa explains that their problem is much bigger than just finding fresh grain for bread. Their connection to the mountain is breaking. She ends by saying she is afraid. Elrond is busy working in workshop when Galadriel comes to ask him to join her in Eregion to check on Celebrimbor, who has not responded to their letters. Elrond refuses, but Galadriel reveals that Gil-galad will not let her go unless Elrond accompanies her. She admits that Gil-galad believes she might be vulnerable to Sauron tricks, and she agrees with him. Galadriel tries to explain that Sauron has invaded her soul against her will, but Elrond counters that it was not against her will. He shaped himself to be everything Galadriel desired, and she accepted him.
You gave him everything he wanted and then thanked him for it. And now he has done the same to Gil-galad.
Please, Elrond, I cannot let him in again. I cannot.
In choosing to wear those rings, you have all chosen to become his collaborators.
After Galadriel leaves, Elrond struggles with letting go of his worries about the rings, tells him that it is safest for the elves to keep the rings. He says that Sauron would use the rings for great evil, but the elves can use their powers for good. Encourages Elrond not to turn away from the rings or Galadriel, especially if he thinks she is lost. Celebrimbor is busy working in his forge to create Ithilden, a special alloy made with a piece of mithril. This alloy makes carvings invisible except in direct moonlight. As he and his assistant test it, he asks if Halbrand is still there. She suggests bringing Halbrand a shawl for warmth, which shows her concern for him. Instead of doing that, Celebrimbor goes to Halbrand to tell him he must leave willingly, because the elven smith cannot work with him anymore.
If you do not leave willingly, you shall be removed by force. I can treat with you no longer.
Then you know nothing of what's happened. Nothing of the rings.
What of the rings?
Oh, I see. The true creators toil till their knuckles bleed. And then they come along, and forget all about us.
Wait!
The rings. Did they work? They worked wonders.
Halbrand tells him that the rings saved the tree and Linden, which makes Celebrimbor happy. Halbrand tells Celebrimbor he has not been fully honest with him. He admits he wants Celebrimbor to make rings for men too. Celebrimbor refuses, saying men can be easily corrupted, and he would need mithril, which the dwarves probably will not give. Halbrand mentions that the dwarves are in trouble, but does not elaborate. He then reveals that his real name is not Halbrand, and that Galadriel cast him out when she found out the truth. He claims that evil is threatening Middle-earth, endangering all realms. He says he is a messenger sent to help them through the danger. Celebrimbor is understandably skeptical, but Halbrand impressively shows off his power and promises to make sure Celebrimbor is recognized for his work. He then dramatically reveals himself to be Annatar, the Lord of Gifts.
Sent. Halbrand!
I have walked through the dusts and the deserts of faraway lands. I can bring you the knowledge none other possesses. Never again will the world overlook you, but forevermore revere you, the Lord of the Rings.
You need not bow to me.
But I have beheld your natural form.
What am I to call you?
A sharer of gifts. Annatar.
Lord of Gifts.
Galadriel is called before Gil-galad, who tells her she will be going to Eregion because Elrond has agreed to go with her. Elrond will take over as leader of the Northern Company in exchange for his help. Back in Khazad-dûm, Durin and Disa receive an invitation from Celebrimbor to visit.
It's some sort of invitation from Lord Celebrimbor.
In a flashback, Elendil tries to bring Isildur's horse, Barrow, back to Numenor with them, but seeing the horse grieving, he sets it free. Barrow then runs back to where he last saw Isildur but gets attacked by orcs. The horse fights bravely and escapes into the Black Forest. Isildur is trapped. He orders Barrow to flee, and soon after, the spiders scatter as a bigger danger appears. It is none other than Shelob. In Numenor, Elendil is focused on the king death, but his daughter Eregion scolds him for being able to mourn the king while still not grieving for his own son. She tells him he should not blame himself because she believes someone else is to blame. Before Elendil can get more answers from her, Queen Muriel arrives for the king funeral with her cousin Pharazôn. Meanwhile, a grieving mother confronts Muriel, upset that she has no body to mourn. Muriel asks the woman whom she lost and embraces her, allowing her to express her grief. Later, Pharazôn approaches Muriel while she looks through her father's belongings. She notices a heavy bangle and tries to hide it from Pharazôn. He then asks her to decide on a color for her coronation outfit, white to honor the past or red to symbolize the future. Muriel chooses white, following her father tradition, remembering that an eagle appeared during his coronation. Pharazôn prefers red for the new ruler, but respects her decision. Pharazôn then goes to a pub where he meets Eregion, Kemen, and Lord Belzegar. Kemen loudly claims that because the queen is now blind, she is not fit to rule.
You were nearly chosen to rule in her stead. Much of this land still believes that yours were the better claim.
Eregion.
Valandil.
Should have liked to have been there.
Pity members of the common soldiery weren't invited.
Especially given the lower class of folk that were. I bled with the queen on the battlefield. You speak ill of the queen again. It'll be you suffers an infirmity.
Well, I'd say that's worth another ale.
Across the sea, Adar tells his orcs to prepare for war against Sauron. He explains to a worried orc that they will never truly be safe as long as Sauron lives, even though they are relatively safe now. The orc who speaks with Adar goes back to check on his family, which includes a partner and a baby. Meanwhile, a troll carrying a skull enters their camp, also looking for Sauron.
I gather you received our message.
Where is Sauron?
Durin and Disa visit Celebrimbor. He offers them a deal as to create rings for the dwarf lords to help them in their struggles. Celebrimbor explains that the ring's power could help heal the mountain. Durin and Disa quickly realize that Mithril is needed to make the rings, and Celebrimbor agrees to forge them in exchange for the precious ore. Durin is unsure about taking this offer to his father, King Durin, since they are not speaking. Annatar reminds them that this deal could greatly benefit their kingdom, and might even heal the rift between Durin and his father. Annatar flatters Durin, but it only makes Durin more suspicious. Disa steps in, asking for time to think about the offer. Celebrimbor agrees. As soon as they leave, Disa tells Durin that he needs to tell his father about the plan or she will. Even though the solution seems strange, they cannot afford to reject it. Back at the forge, Annatar tells Celebrimbor that Gil-galad has forbidden the creation of more rings because he does not think the dwarves are worthy of their power. This, of course, is a lie, but it is enough to push Celebrimbor into action.
What business is it of his how I conduct myself in my own realm? Celebrimbor. No! Nevertheless, sooner or later, Gil-galad will discover the truth. I am congratulating the High King and telling him that I'm closing up the forge.
You would lie to your High King?
I have apprenticed, I have studied, I have reached the very height of my craft. This is my moment. Now, he will not take it away.
In Khazad-dûm, Narvi tells King Durin that the people want to petition him to open the grain reserves, which will last only a few months. Instead of meeting with the merchants about the petition, King Durin is joined by his son, Prince Durin, who presents Celebrimbor offer. Prince Durin also apologizes to his father, but the king only accepts the apology without truly acknowledging it. Before leaving, King Durin confides in his son that he does not trust the power they are being offered. As Isildur leaves the marshes, he stumbles upon an overturned cart surrounded by dead humans and horses. He finds a lone survivor, a woman named Estrid, who mistakes him for an orc and stabs him in the thigh. After realizing he is from Numenor, Estrid tells Isildur that the boats have already left. She had gone there searching for her betrothed, but found no one. She offers him a map leading to an old Numenorian settlement, where Isildur believes others might have gone. While traveling, they come across a dying man who claims to have been attacked by orcs. However, this turns out to be a trap to rob them.
Estrid, go!
Thank you. It's Isildur. Remember? My horse. I can't abandon him.
Settle your own affairs, it seems you best.
Arendir pressing matter is the funeral of Bronwyn. Arendir lights Bronwyn funeral pyre with the help of her son Theo. Theo is reluctant to accept comfort from the elf. Arendir advises Theo not to let his anger consume him, but Theo rebuffs him, stating that Arendir is not his father, and with Bronwyn gone, they no longer need to maintain any connection. Isildur invites Theo to visit Numenor one day to see its impressive architecture. Although it is a casual suggestion, it sparks the thought that Theo, feeling lost, might one day find purpose by leaving Middle-earth for Numenor. He tells Isildur to meet him by the aqueduct that night if he wants to try and get Barrow back. At the Wildmen camp, Theo pretends to be loyal to Adar, giving Isildur time to sneak away with Barrow.
It's an ambush!
In Numenor, it is the day of Queen Muriel coronation. She arrives in a beautiful white gown, while Pharazôn wears the red he suggested for her. Just as the ceremony begins, people in the crowd start to speak out against Muriel being queen. Muriel invites them to express their grief, and tells them she feels their pain too. Eregion then steps forward. She reveals that she found the Palantir, the Seeing Stone, on the old king orders, and that Muriel has been using it for guidance.
Take it away, and destroy it.
No! The Palantir is mine.
The eagle favors Pharazôn!
Meanwhile, Celebrimbor and Annatar prepare the forge to create the 7 Dwarven rings. King Durin brings Mithril, and as Celebrimbor was about to combine it, Annatar pulls out his hand so that Celebrimbor could pass it to him, and by doing that, he directly influenced the rings for his own goal. Galadriel and Elrond are getting ready to go to Eregion. Elrond tells her that Gil-galad also told him to make her his second in command. This makes her feel a bit better, and she agrees to help him, but they find that the bridge over a deep gap has been completely destroyed by Sauron. One of their members, Camnir, suggests 2 other ways to go. Galadriel warns them about an evil presence in the hills that her ring is signaling. She thinks it could be a trick to lead them where someone wants them to go. However, Elrond says that both routes to Eregion are likely being watched, so they should take the southern route, despite Galadriel warnings. Before they leave, he threatens to send her back to Lindon if she keeps listening to the ring, but Galadriel refuses to agree to anything. The Dark Wizard learns from his sentries that the stranger, whom they call the Istar, killed 2 of their men with the sandstorm he created and is heading north toward the Hermit. The Dark Wizard orders his men to focus on finding the Harfoots instead, saying he will find the Istar himself. The only one who finds the Istar right now is the Hermit farmer.
Let him out again. Go to sleep.
Who are you?
Back in the Withy window, folk used to call me Tom Bombadil.
After the stranger freshens up, Tom asks him about the stars he was looking for. The stranger wants to find his friends under the stars, and when Tom playfully turns the stranger's star sketch into a piece of bread. Witnessing Tom's casual power over nature, the stranger asks him to teach him, but Tom says the stranger is not ready yet. Tom reveals that he knew the Dark Wizard before he took control of Rhûn, and warns that the Dark Wizard aims to ally with Sauron for greater power, which could destroy Middle-earth. Tom tells the stranger that it is now his responsibility to stop both the Dark Wizard and Sauron, adding pressure on the stranger, who cannot even remember his name. On the road to Eregion, the group reaches Tirn Gorthad, or the Barrow Downs, an ancient resting place of kings. Elrond and Vorohil press on, but soon hear voices singing a haunting melody. They discover what remains of Gil-galad messengers, and soon face the Barrow-wights.
Barrow-wights.
Hold fast! Help me open it! What? Not him! According to law, only the blades with which they were buried will return such creatures to rest.
Outside Pelargir, the search for Theo continues after he vanished following his and Isildur infiltration. They find the abandoned camp and realize something must have frightened the wild men away. Isildur focuses on finding Theo, and Estrid suggests looking north, raising Arendir's suspicions. He later finds Isildur and Estrid flirting and interrogates her about a burn mark on her neck, recognizing it as a sign of loyalty to Adar.
Self-burn. The wildmen do it to hide the mark of Adar. She's going to lead us toward the others.
Eregion uses this information to compel Estrid to lead them to the wildmen. They stumble upon a marsh, which pulls Isildur and Eregion down, but Estrid throws them a branch to grab onto, accidentally releasing a giant slug instead. In the woods, the Entwife confronts them. When Eregion admits that he has cut down trees before, she does not take it well. The Ents, Snaggleroot, and Winterbloom explain that they came because of the destruction caused by the orcs. Winterbloom threatens them, but Eregion manages to persuade her to spare them so they can help restore the forest. She even reveals a wooden cage of prisoners, including Theo, whom Eregion embraces.
I must not. Forgiveness takes an age.
I promise, we will see to it that the trees of this wood are left in peace.
Please. We know peace.
Thank you for coming for me.
Meanwhile, Galadriel tries to convince Elrond again that the ring is guiding her. Elrond worries about what this could lead to, but Galadriel thinks Sauron winning is even worse. He tells her that his father had a vision about protecting Celebrimbor. Galadriel makes him promise to put defeating Sauron before her life. As they hear drums, they see a group of orcs heading toward Eregion, likely the same ones Arondir is following. Their hiding spot is discovered when orcs accidentally shoot Camnir instead of a horse. Even though Elrond and the others try to keep Camnir quiet, Galadriel, guided by the ring, heals his wound, surprising everyone, especially Elrond. She tells everyone to go back to Lindon to warn Gil-galad and decides to stay behind to hold off the orcs. She gives her ring to Elrond for safekeeping.
Cut off her right thumb!
The 7 rings meant for the dwarf lords have finally been handed out. King Durin is the first to accept his ring, even as he hears dark whispers from the others. Narvi takes King Durin down into the mines to show him their attempts at finding new sun shafts, but he admits that things are not going well, as their work is making the mountain unstable. Narvi and Prince Durin follow the king up to a ridge, where Durin confidently chooses a spot for them to dig. However, this confidence comes not from his own understanding of the mountain, but from the ring he now wears, which is urging him to direct them to dig into a load-bearing wall. And while it seems like their fears of a cave-in might come true, their gamble pays off when sunlight suddenly floods into the mine.
Next time I order you to dig, you do so. Here. Here. In Khazak Doom, we are free of its tyranny. We bring the sun to us.
Celebrimbor is hosting a celebration to mark the success of the Dwarven rings, attended by Narvi and a small group of guests. As part of the festivities, they unveil the new west gate of the mountain, known as the Doors of Durin. While everyone is celebrating, Annatar quietly steps away to sulk on the balcony. Annatar pretends his mood is due to his thoughts about those suffering at the hands of Mordor, particularly men. Celebrimbor starts to catch on to Annatar intentions regarding rings for men, but he remains hesitant, calling out Annatar for trying to manipulate him. They argue about the worthiness of men, with Celebrimbor asserting that anyone from the Southlands who did not support Adar in his conquest has found new homes. According to Annatar, these rings could stabilize Numenor, but Celebrimbor firmly believes the risks outweigh the potential benefits, as men can be easily corrupted.
The risk of corruption is simply too great. Whatever problems we might solve will be nothing.
There are always some who rise forth. Eregion, Tur, Beren. We find men we can trust. The most noble, the purest of heart, from Numenor to Rune. For our third forging, we will make 9.
I am sorry. My answer is no.
Very well. I shall make the 9 myself.
Pharazôn has taken the throne from Muriel. Dressed in a striking red and white outfit, he ponders the idea of immortality, which alarms his son, Kemen. Kemen advises his father to focus on ruling wisely, rather than seeking even more power, but Pharazôn dismisses his son's caution, insisting Kemen complete a task for him before revealing more about a prophecy related to his future. In her tower, Muriel grapples with the aftermath of her failed coronation. Elendil reassures her that many still support her, mentioning the Seaguard would follow her lead if commanded. They both know the tension in the air, and Muriel asks Elendil about his vision from the Palantir. He reveals he saw himself riding away from the city, which intrigues Muriel, as she has only foreseen doom for their kingdom. With newfound hope, Muriel encourages Elendil to remain calm amidst the turmoil, suggesting he return to his ship and ride out the storm. At the harbor, Elendil encounters the Seaguard surrendering their uniforms under Kemen's watchful eye. Valandil explains that any members loyal to Muriel have been stripped of their ranks on Eregion orders. Elendil is upset by his daughter's actions, but Eregion claims she is motivated by grief over her brother. In a show of loyalty, Elendil turns in his sword and attempts to leave.
Captain leaving deck!
He's nobody's captain now.
He's right. I'm not.
The Valar protects you.
That's enough.
Thank you, Captain.
How do you think this ends? Silence!
Thank you, Captain.
In Lindon, Gil-galad receives Celebrimbor's deceptive letter and is urged to turn his focus to Adar and the orc threat. However, he feels trapped by his visions of destruction and cannot commit to sending their armies to help. While shopping for a birthday gift for their daughter, they find that prices have doubled due to a new law from King Durin, which requires merchants to pay a tax to the crown. After managing to negotiate a fair price for a tuning crystal, Disa accidentally drops it, causing it to roll away into a tunnel. She ventures deep into the tunnel and discovers an unexplored cavern with a lake, where her stone singing awakens something lurking in the water. Meanwhile, King Durin gathers emissaries from other dwarven realms to distribute the remaining rings, emphasizing that the power they hold comes with a price. He later meets with Narvi, instructing him to disregard all safety regulations in their pursuit to dig deeper.
What is it?
You took it off.
What is it? What have you done with it?
It's there, sire.
It was. It was. Start to dig. The points were marked.
There's something under the mines. Disa heard it herself. A nameless evil. Narvi, I beg you.
Delmaster, you have your orders. I can see it. We have barely taken a thimble.
Celebrimbor realizes that adding more mithril to the rings was a mistake, but he struggles to identify the correct solution. Annatar tries to guide him, but remains manipulative, hinting that Celebrimbor's dishonesty in forging the rings has tainted them. Meanwhile, in Numenor, Elendil lights a candle and drops it on the water in the memory of his son. At that moment, Kemen arrives and says that this shrine will be destroyed because it stands in the way for a new construction. He orders everyone to leave the shrine, but Elendil can't hold his anger any longer.
Give it to him, boy. Put it down, son.
Inform the jailer. He was the one who started the uprising.
Galadriel is taken to Adar's camp, not as a prisoner, but to negotiate with him, knowing that they share a common enemy. She accepts to discuss with Adar about what to do with the Dark Lord and how to defeat him, as she has no other choice at the moment. In the Elf City, Celebrimbor finds himself frustrated with the slow progress of forging the 9 rings, particularly because the dwarves have yet to deliver the necessary mithril. After snapping at his fellow smiths, Mordania points out his recent irritability.
What is your name again, Smith?
You don't remember?
Of course I remember.
Lord Celebrimbor.
Give me a moment, I said!
Everyone take a respite. You cannot be expected to remember everything.
Earlier, I could have sworn I left my creasing hammer.
You mean that hammer?
My mind must be going.
Your people demand an audience.
Until the 9 are complete. Nothing else matters. The dwarves are late with our mithril. See to it.
At once.
While Celebrimbor is preoccupied, Annatar addresses the waiting citizens, announcing he will take over the city administration. Mordania and a guard inform Annatar about a disturbing event. A soldier returned from an investigation dead, with the message, "Where is he?" carved on his chest, which Annatar orders to keep secret. Meanwhile, Adar and Galadriel engage in a tense conversation during dinner. Adar points out Galadriel's obsession with Sauron, suggesting it is because he has invaded her mind. Despite her protests that she resisted his influence, Adar warns her that Sauron manipulates people by exploiting their deepest desires.
Morgoth's crown.
And I was the one who used its power to slay him. It is said the 3 elven rings saved your kind from fading. Together, this crown and your rings would be powerful enough to truly destroy Sauron. The fate of that city now rests on your ability to put aside your pride. We will speak again.
Shifting to Numenor, Elendil faces trial for inciting a riot, with Pharazôn offering him a chance at freedom if he renounces his loyalty to Muriel and pledges to Pharazôn instead. Elendil refuses, maintaining his allegiance to Muriel, while Lord Belzegar suggests letting the Valar decide Elendil's fate.
Elendil, son of Amandil, do you accept our Pharazôn as Numenor's true king?
I do not. And the only traitor here is you.
Perhaps we should let the Valar decide his fate.
The stranger has a vision of danger facing Nori and Poppy during a meditation with Tom Bombadil. Tom instructs the stranger to align his heart with the secret fire to find his staff, but the stranger feels pressed for time. Tom warns him that leaving could prevent him from returning to his training. Back in Khazad-dûm, Prince Durin is summoned by King Durin. Durin pleads with his father to remove the ring, suspecting it controls him.
I see the 7 are serving you well, Prince Durin. Without mithril,
The remaining rings of power may never be complete. We can provide a steady supply of timber.
Perhaps we'd be wise to discuss this first in private.
The answer is no.
Farewell.
I was afraid you'd taken leave of all your senses.
They'll be back.
Back?
We can name our price.
Have you gone mad?
Tell Narvi to double his work teams.
Take off the ring.
Returning to Elendil in Numenor, he prepares for the trial by Abyss, where he is thrown into the sea to face a sea worm. Muriel intervenes, insisting on taking Elendil place in the trial. After the sea worm briefly captures her, Muriel emerges unharmed, and Pharazôn has no choice but to declare her innocent. Elendil praises her as the Queen of the Sea, angering Pharazôn. In Adar's camp, he and Galadriel discuss Halbrand's true identity and agree on an alliance to combat Sauron. However, Adar remains skeptical about the elves' intentions toward the orcs. As they prepare for battle, Galadriel warns Adar that his forces alone will not be sufficient against Sauron. Eregion is under attack as Celebrimbor, oblivious to the impending danger, is persuaded by Annatar lifts an illusion, revealing the chaos outside, signifying that war has finally come to Eregion.
How fares your progress?
I've had quite enough of you telling me where I belong!
We still have 9 rings to forge.
Cannot forge more rings.
Mithril ore, refined to a powder by Narvi himself. I give you my oath. The Silmarils, they will merit little more than a whisper. Best Feanor. Best yourself.
Merdania and the Elven troops seek Celebrimbor's orders, but Annatar claims leadership, stating that Celebrimbor is not fit to command. The elves soon realize the orcs are targeting a mountain with catapults, so it could drop bigger rocks into the river and make a dam to remove the water so they could facilitate a ground assault, intensifying the urgency of the situation. Meanwhile, in Khazad-dûm, King Durin is more focused on mining wealth than on the impending threat. Despite this, Prince Durin and Elrond enters the camp to negotiate, but Adar demands to see Galadriel ring, which Elrond claims he did not bring. Galadriel urges Elrond to charge through, but Adar states he needs the ring to stop Sauron. Elrond counters that the siege has done Sauron work for him. Adar believes the city is already lost, but Galadriel can still be saved. He offers Elrond a chance to save her in exchange for the ring, warning him that he cannot defeat him in battle. He allows Elrond to say goodbye to Galadriel, and in a heartfelt moment, Elrond kisses her and slips the brooch into her hand, apologizing before leaving her behind. Back in Khazad-dûm, Durin gathers his warriors, informing them that Sauron has returned and that they need to help the elves defeat him. Durin inspires the dwarves to join him in the fight against Sauron.
Will you fight with our friends? We march for Eregion!
Scale the trench just in time. She runs into Arendir, who intends to confront Adar. Although Galadriel urges him to come with her, he believes he has nothing left to live for and is determined to fight Adar. She assures him that he will have his chance later. But Narvi soon arrives, bloodied, with urgent news that the king attacked his men, killing them all and intent on digging deeper, potentially freeing a great beast. He pleads with Durin to call off the army, warning that if they leave to help Elrond, their home will be lost. Meanwhile, back in Eregion, he reflects on how it pains him to treat Celebrimbor the way Morgoth treated him, describing it as torture. However, he adds that his vision for Middle-earth is different from Morgoth destruction.
A single arrow from you may yet turn the tide. Hadohi!
Far away from the Dark Lord while he gathers soldiers to face him again in the tower. She listens to him and runs off with the rings, leaving Celebrimbor to face Sauron.
Send him in.
He will kill our own kind.
Send him in.
Adar grabs his hand and throws him to the ground, but takes the ring he promised to take from him once they meet again. In Casa Doom, Durin and Narvi find Disa with one of the dwarves that King Durin injured in his ring-induced rage. Enough is enough for the younger Durin, and after a romantic farewell kiss with his wife, he storms down the mine to confront his father at last. He finds the king alone in the mine, breaking stone with a battering ram-like instrument with a strike so powerful it reverberates through the mine. Venturing so far down it awakes a certain creature made of flame that we all know and love. But before the Balrog can come out and protest at being woken up from its nap, Durin tries to get through to his father one last time, imploring him to take off the ring or else risk losing his hand. King Durin calls his bluff and breaks through the wall after all. Durin follows his father through the newly uncovered tunnel. He has uncovered a pocket rich in ore, so this was not a complete wild goose chase. But their moment of peace is short-lived, as the Balrog is awake at last and really pissed at being woken up.
Forgive me, my son. King Durin.
Meanwhile, out in Rune, the stranger arrives at the Store Village, having opted to pull a Luke Skywalker and save his friends rather than pursue his wizardly path. He finds the village seemingly empty except for one person, the Dark Wizard, who is happy to see his old friend and fellow Istar at long last. The stranger has no idea what he is talking about. Turns out, he did not need to explain, as the Dark Wizard reveals he knows Nori and Poppy by name. He kills one of them fairly quickly, causing the others to flee and leaving the Harfoots, free and unharmed. He tells them this is the wrong sort of attitude for defeating Sauron, and the stranger presses him on this point, asking if defeat was all he had in mind. As it turns out, his ambition runs a little higher than mere defeat, and he tells the stranger that together, the two of them can defeat Sauron and take his place. The Dark Wizard takes this extremely poorly, and caves in a portion of the upper wall of the Store Village, telling the stranger that he hopes the loss of those he cares about will put Sauron's destructive powers into perspective. A few stores are crushed by the falling rocks, but the stranger manages to stop their fall before too many are killed. Over in Numenor, the faithful have gathered in the palace under Aryan watch, where they are quickly joined by Pharazôn, who informs them that Muriel was able to survive her trial by sea because she has secretly allied herself with Sauron. Muriel tells Elendil he will have to leave the city without her, as she has decided to stay behind. Her place, she tells him, is in the city, and he maintains his place is with her. Muriel directs him to take the sword from her chambers, a blade named Narsil, known to those familiar with the legendary history. With it, she implies he can reclaim his title and fulfill his destiny. The orcs have fully breached the city, and the remaining elves are falling one by one. Galadriel manages to lead a group of them out of the city, where they run into a small cluster of orcs. She says she will turn herself in exchange for everyone else's freedom.
Look what you have done to yourself. Tell me where you have hidden the rings, and I will end your suffering now. All I have done has been for you. Yours was the fire that crafted the marvels of the age.
But the rings are beyond your reach, as I shall be ere long.
Hear the dying words of Celebrimbor. Sauron, Lord of the Rings.
Theo finds Isildur in his workshop, brooding over the knife Estrid stabbed him with. With Isildur packing to go, Theo takes the chance to ask him how he lives with the pain and guilt of his mother death. The same feelings Theo is living with now. Isildur tells him that his trip to Middle-earth put things into perspective for him. Voices outside attract their attention, as boats have arrived presumably bearing supplies. Isildur asks Theo if he is sure he would not like to come back to Numenor with him, and Theo says that he is sure. Galadriel is brought to Adar by the orcs. Instead of taking the rings and killing her, he surprises her with his looks, as he now looks like he once did back when he was untouched by darkness and corruption. He gives her the ring he took from Elrond, and once he did that, his skin began to return to darkness. In that moment, orcs bring an injured commander to him, as he has a message for Adar.
It's too late.
Galadriel.
What orders? Leave no elf alive, but bring me their leaders.
As Sauron and Galadriel fight, orcs destroy everything in their path. They bring down the statue of the great smith Fëanor and put all the books and scripts on one place to burn. Elrond tells them to not do that because there is much knowledge and power from the works of Celebrimbor, but orcs don't care at all, so they set it all up on fire. Just as it seemed like everything was lost, a horn can be heard, and it's the Dwarven army charging in, shooting everywhere with their crossbows and bringing down the orcs, setting Elrond and Gil-galad free to fight for their lives.
I know you're mine. The door is still open. The rings are mine. Give me your ring.
Heal yourself.
If we pursue many orders...
Galadriel, now fully healed, awakens in a hidden valley that Elrond has led them to, located north of Khazad-dûm, which will one day be known as Rivendell. At this point, however, it serves as a safe sanctuary, protected by the power of the 3 Elven rings, where they can regroup and determine their next course of action. Gil-galad addresses Galadriel, Elrond, and Arondir, emphasizing that the elves must decide whether to confront Sauron or strengthen their defenses. Galadriel suggests following Celebrimbor's wisdom, noting that darkness is defeated by light, not by brute strength. Although her sentiment is beautiful, it does not directly answer Gil-galad's pressing question. Nevertheless, her words remind the elves that unity is their greatest strength, something they will need as they face the looming threat together, as now Sauron will forge the One Ring to bind them all into darkness in the next season.